Thank you for joining us this morning for this very special webinar with some very special people. We are very, very happy to have with us this morning Dr. Manoj Kumar Pateria, who is the head and advisor NCSTC from the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this morning. We also have with us Mr. Daksh Dua and Mr. Rutik Thorat. Both Daksh, Rutik, Iris and Fly, and will be speaking to us also a little later in the webinar. Thank you so much, Daksh and Rutik, for joining us. Daksh is joining us all the way from Toronto. Rutik is very much here, and Rutik, we are very proud of you and Daksh both. We also were supposed to have with us Ms. Jaya Sagar, who unfortunately has not been able to join us, but has sent us a video instead, and so we will be playing her message a little later in the day. Dr. Pateria, we would like to invite you to begin by addressing our participants and talking about the importance of STEM in our country, and especially STEM in the lives of the youth of our country.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and especially Ms. Sharon Kumar from Extemplar, Mr. Daksh, Jaya and Ritik, who have won the IRIS Awards, and now many laurels are going to come to them. I am very happy to join this wonderful program with all of you on this morning, and I am looking forward for very nice interaction with all of you on various aspects of STEM, as was mentioned over here. At the outset, I would like to congratulate all of you on the occasion of Engineers Day, the birthday of Mokshgundam Vishweshwaraya, who led the foundations of several engineering projects in India long back. So being 15th September of this day, we are celebrating the Engineers Day. I am very happy to see that this program is coincided with the National Engineers Day. As a matter of fact, the STEM, as we all are aware, that science, it is for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Nowadays, a number of other phrases have been added, like medicine, to make it STEMM. And somewhere they also include STEAM, STEAM. It includes arts as well. So it's a nice acronym, and that gives us a lot of insight as how we are working in the area of interdisciplinarity. And only one discipline in isolation is not sufficient. And we have to look in totality as all the disciplines, they mingle together, and there is a confluence between all of them. And when they merge, some new technologies or new areas of knowledge and expertise emerge. So this is how we are working together on development and growth of STEM, not only in India, but all around the world. And incidentally, this STEM was first coined by US NSF, as we all are aware, the United States National Science Foundation. And from there, it percolated all around the world. And now we are working collectively for promoting STEM for overall development and growth of the nations and as well as the world. Incidentally, as a matter of fact, we are producing something like 2.6 million STEM graduates every year in India. That puts India at the third largest position all around the world who are possessing the STEM graduates in the country. Similarly, we are also producing something like 25,000 PhDs in STEM subjects. So this is how we are really progressing very well in the area of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. One thing I would like to consider here especially when it comes to production of PhDs or graduates, we also need to have a kind of assessment of our requirements, that how many engineers, how many scientists, how many mathematicians we are requiring in the future, maybe in the span of 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, or even more. So this kind of estimation is also required somewhere, and somebody has to work on that so that we can have the demand and supply in a proper way. Of course, if there is supply, so demand is going to come. But it is good idea if we create the demand and then meet the supply accordingly. So this balance is, I think, required. And moreover, the programs like IRIS and the programs like National Children's Science Congress, they are really adding value to bring about the quality in all these productions, be it graduate, postgraduate, as well as the PhDs and postdoctorals. The quality of research, the quality of education has to be enhanced, because it is not sufficient to have only the degree. It is also required to have the right kind of knowledge, right kind of skills, and right kind of a kind of temperament. I think that is all combination of all these 3-4 attributes. I think it is required for excelling in your respective areas. So it is not only paper qualification, but your other traits and attributes, they are also responsible for bringing in the progress and the success, and ultimately to achieve the excellence. So I think these are some of the ideas that I wanted to share in the beginning. Now, since we have been working in the National Council for Science and Technology Communication for overall promotion of science and technology in the Department of Science and Technology, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. And we are mandated for science and technology communication. When we call science, it includes all kinds of sciences, including pure sciences, applied sciences, that is engineering, mathematics, environmental sciences, medical sciences, agricultural sciences, including social sciences. So all sorts of sciences are included when we call it science. So it is all a kind of inclusive approach of communication involving all kinds of sciences and knowledge, and putting them in perspective so that we can have something newer ideas that can really lead to progress in various aspects and encourage innovativeness wherever you are working. Innovation is not always technological innovation. Innovation could be anywhere. Maybe this program we are organizing, this program itself has some innovative approach. Many webinars are being organized nowadays. So various organizers, they have different approaches, different avenues to organize these webinars. Even they have coined different terminologies for these webinars. If there is some workshop, they call it web shop. So this is the kind of innovation. Innovation can happen anywhere. But for all this creativity, I think we require right kind of knowledge, right kind of skill, and right kind of aptitude. And that is being promoted by various programs initiated by the National Council for Science and Technology Communication, where I am working right now. Like, as I said, IRIS, Initiative for Research and Innovation in Science, and subsequently it became STEM. The National Children's Science Congress, National Teachers Science Congress, Bharat Jan Vigyan Jatha, and so many other activities, hands-on science, and nature science, WASH activities, science fair, science exhibitions, science for villages, science for women, science for children. So a whole canvas is devoted for various aspects of science and technology communication in the country. Not only for the children, but also for the masses. Masses means even the people who have never got any opportunity to go to the regular education system. I think we should be able to take care of them, especially the people at the street. Actually, people, the lay people who do not know, who are illiterate people, even Divyangjan. So all cross sections of the society. They are our target audiences, and we are working, we are promoting, and we are devising various ways and means to reach out to all these people to really overcome the problems of communication and educate them, communicate with them, right kind of knowledge, right kind of skill, and right kind of aptitude. Especially these days, the whole world is suffering from the pandemic, that is COVID-19. So we have the added responsibility for educating people, communicating to the masses, the basics as how we can really safeguard ourselves, our families, our societies, our workers, co-workers, workplaces from this deadly pandemic. So these are some of the aspects which we are putting together with the help of National Council for Science and Technology Communication. So mainly I would like to just share some of my essay thoughts on various aspects of STEM. When we call it STEM, so first letter comes science. As I said, the right kind of skill, knowledge, and aptitude. So to begin with, I would like to ponder over science, taking the first letter of STEM, science. So we are trying to promote scientific temperament. What do we mean by scientific temperament or scientific temper? Some people call it scientific attitude. Some people call it scientific outlook, scientific way of mind, scientific mindset. So various kinds of nomenclatures are there. But the main thing is, if you are able to analyze things in a rational manner, and if you are able to take decisions without any pressure, without any bias, without any prejudice, without any fear, it means you are having a scientific bent of mind. That means you are having a scientific temperament. Generally, there is a misbelief that the people who are doing BSc, MSc, PhD, or BTech, MTech, and what what comes for all kinds of scientific education system, automatically this temperament is going to come. But that is not true. Even as a matter of fact, a farmer in a village, an illiterate person in a far-flung area can possess the scientific bent of mind, can have the scientific temperament. As a contrast, even scientists working in the laboratories may be lacking the scientific temper and scientific bent of mind. So scientific temper has directly nothing to do with the scientific knowledge. Scientific temper is something like how you behave, how you conduct, how you are able to take decisions, how rational you are, how analytical you are, how systematic you are, and above all, how you can perceive, think, and observe in a minute manner. So it all, this conglomerate of these kinds of attributes that bring about the scientific temperament. So if you are having all these attributes, it means you are having the scientific temperament. To make it more clearer, if you have a scientific temperament, most likely you will be using the method of science. So what is method of science? Method of science is the method that is being utilized by the scientists while working in the laboratory. So various elements of method of science, and subsequently they lead to scientific temperament. So there are 5 elements of method of science. The first one is curiosity. One has to be curious. So if you are curious, then what will happen? To satisfy your curiosity, you will collect the information from different sources. So second element is collection of information, data collection. So scientists are doing data collection. Then subsequently, the data that you have collected or the information that you have gathered from different sources may be correct, may not be correct. Then what you will do, you will analyze. Then only after due analysis, you will be able to realize that which information is really correct or not. And further, it comes to verification. How you are going to verify? You will verify through experimentation. Like scientist first has a hypothesis. Then according to hypothesis, he gathers data. Then he analyzes. Then he or she goes for the experimentation. Then after the experimentation, there are results. There are observations. If the results are varying, maybe once, twice, or thrice, you have to repeat the experiment. When repeatedly the same results are coming, only then you can reach to the conclusion. So this is the method that is being utilized by scientists. So many people in their day-to-day life, they have a tendency for using this method. Maybe I will give you an example. Suppose somebody has something about somebody to you, and then what you will do? You will not believe. If you have a scientific temperament, scientific bent of mind, you are not going to believe, especially the negative things. What you will do? You will verify from different sources. You will discuss with your close friends or whom you trust. And then somehow you will gather the data from different angles. Only then you will reach to the conclusion that whether the statement that was made by somebody for somebody in front of you is really correct or not correct. So this is the way how we should be looking at things in the society as well. So we believe in NCSTC that if a person having the scientific temperament, he or she would be more successful, would be more pragmatic, would be able to take more appropriate decisions. Because what happens in our every day-to-day life, we have to take decisions. And our decisions, wherever we are, at home, at office, in school, in college, national, international level, depending upon our position, the decisions that we are taking today are going to impact our tomorrow, even tomorrow of our children and grandchildren. So the decisions have to be taken very carefully. So this scientific temper enables us to take right kind of decision at right point of time. Because if you are unable to take the decision at right point of time, then what will happen? The time is going to take decision on your behalf. Then you will be left with no option other than to accept the decision that time has taken for you. So don't allow the time to take decision on your behalf. Always you enable yourself, enable your surroundings, your friends or your colleagues to be able to take right kind of decision at right point of time. And the scientific temperament enables us to take right kind of decision at right point of time. And moreover, the second element while taking decisions is the informed decision. Because sometimes we jump to conclusion based on the information from one angle. So that is not the scientific way of taking decisions. The scientific way of taking decisions, collecting information from all possible angles, analyzing them, experimenting them, and then reaching to the conclusion. So this is the kind of process and method. If every citizen of India applies in his or her daily life, I think the things are going to change drastically. Not only with the procurement and generation of new knowledge, but also our conduct, our behavior, and all our performance wherever we are, it would be really excellent. So this is about the scientific temperament, method of science, and about taking decisions. So how the scientific knowledge and scientific attitude, a combination, I think holds the key for the overall excellence, overall success of this process of doing science, analyzing science, and science of taking decisions. The second thing comes like we are working in the Department of Science and Technology. It comes under the Ministry of Science and Technology. Why it is not, have you ever given a thought, why it is not Ministry of Science? Why it is not the Department of Science? And why it is not National Council of Science? Why technology comes together always with science? Because we all know that science and technology go hand in hand. Because science, as a matter of fact, is the concept, the scientific concept that remains almost invisible. And the technology is the application of that concept that is visible. So whatever we see all around ourselves in the name of science is not really science, it is a technology. Like the table fan or the microphone or the technology that we are using here. But these technologies are working on certain scientific concepts, certain scientific principles. So science and technology, they come together for making it really possible. So this is why science and technology are always come together. So similarly, we have been talking, we have been preaching for science popularization and the scientific temperament. So we thought over the period we observed that there should be a connecting link that was missing for a long time. That should be a kind of technological temperament. And today, what could be the better day than today when we are celebrating the Engineers Day. So this technological temper, I would like to focus upon, spend a couple of minutes on this technological temper, and that is really relevant and important for the next letter of STEM, that is T. So what do we mean by technological temper? In my opinion, in our opinion, we think that if the scientific temper shapes our inner self, if the scientific temper shapes our inner self, like how we analyze, how we perceive, how we minutely observe, how we take decisions, similarly, technological temper shapes our outcome. What do we deliver? What is our product? To make it more clearer, if we are able, if you can look at here, if we are able to synchronize our head, the upper finger is head, lower finger is hands. If we are able to synchronize our head and hands in a manner so that we can achieve a kind of precision. And when we achieve precision, we can achieve excellence wherever we are working, irrespective of the laboratory or a classroom or a household or office, any walk of life, wherever we are working, we can achieve excellence. Even I generally keep on saying that even if we are sweeping with a bent, with a technological bent, with a scientifically attitude, then our sweeping would be different from the person who really doesn't possess these kinds of attitudes and aptitudes and attributes. So in my opinion, if you are able to synchronize your head and hands together, then you can achieve excellence. I would like to make it more clearer. Suppose you want to buy a table chair, simple study table chair, and you are going to the market. Of course, nowadays, most of the things are coming online, but generally we tend to go to the market. And we go to shop number 1, we go to shop number 2, we go to shop number 3. Why we visit 3 shops? Why don't we go to the first shop and just get it and pack it and to be delivered at our home? Because that is the scientific temper. You collect the data, you have the observation in 3 shops. Then what happens? Finally, after visiting 3 shops, you decide to buy the table and chair from the shop number 3. Why? Because you found that the product of shop number 3 is more finished, is more presentable, is more accurate, is looking good. As a matter of fact, all 3 shops are using the same set of raw materials, are using same set of tools, same set of artisans, and people are working in all these 3 shops. Then what is the difference that shop number 3 is making? In my opinion, the difference that the shop number 3 has its technological temper, because they are able to synchronize their head and hands. They are able to bring in excellence so that they are able to really bring out a finished product as compared to the product of shop number 1 and shop number 2. So in our society, in the people at large, they have this kind of aptitude, but that has to be identified, that has to be developed, and that has to be replicated in all cross sections of the society. So a combination of the scientific attitude and the technological attitude really holds the key. One of the former Director Generals of CSIR, Dr. R.A. Mashelkar, he says sometime that we Indians are very good at Saraswati. Saraswati means the concept. But when it comes to converting Saraswati into Lakshmi, we find it difficult. Lakshmi means technology. So, incidentally, I happened to attend a very high-level meeting recently, and it was revealed, it was really revealing to all of us that India is the importer of something like 95% precision technology from outside. Whereas India possesses the 3rd largest scientifically and technologically trained manpower in the world. So what is happening? We have the third largest technologically and scientifically trained manpower, and we are importing 95% precision technology from outside. What we are doing? How we can change the scenario? How to convert Saraswati into Lakshmi? How to convert the concept into technology? How to bring in precision, synchronization, and excellence, so that we can really change the scenario sooner the better. From 95% precision technology importing country to 95% precision technology exporting country. So I think this is the message I wanted to give through all of you, so that you can further spread this message, how really we can change the scenario. It is not only getting the degrees, it is not only getting the jobs, it is really bringing in a change. So how to bring in that kind of change? We require that kind of aptitude and attitude for that purpose. Now the third letter is engineering. Engineering is all about technological developments, advancements it covers. Now the last point is mathematics. So let us consider something about the mathematical temper. Because there is scientific temper, there is technological temper, there has to be something called mathematical temper. So what is this mathematical temper all about? Mathematical temper, to our knowledge, means that if you are talking to a person, that okay, if you are visiting a lake, then you are talking to each other. So your friend most likely would say, okay, the lake is huge, very big lake. But the person who is having a mathematical temper, he will not speak in vague sense. He or she will speak that the lake is something like 300 miles kilometer or 200 miles kilometer. This is the width and this is the length and this could be the depth of the lake. And he or she will really analyze the whole lake through his or her mathematical temperament, and will always speak in mathematical terms. So this is how we require that kind of a spirit when calculating our expenses and preparing budget or doing household activities. We have to keep track on our expenses and all these things. So a mathematically trained or mathematically a person who is having the mathematical temper will always think, will always speak, will always perform in mathematical terms. So look at the scenario. If our country is having such kind of people, the things will change. And the last point I would like to add over here, that is innovation. As I mentioned at the beginning, innovation is the key for the real development, because most of the nations, the progress of a nation is really attributed to its innovativeness. Incidentally, India has a rich tradition of this spirit of innovation at grassroots level, at national level, and at school level, college level. We generally meet such kind of excellent people, innovators, maybe sometime in exhibitions, sometime in science fairs, or maybe some competitions. I believe that every small village, town, city, and metropolitan, they have a number of scientifically thinking people. These scientifically thinking people, you can confront with them anywhere, accidentally you can meet them, who are thinking for some solutions for various problems being faced by the mankind. If you look at from that perspective in your surroundings, you will find number of problems. And these problems have the scientific solutions. I will give you an example. Sometime back, we organized a workshop on science communication in a remote area of Uttar Pradesh, where a river is flowing by. And we decided, as part of our exercise, we decided to visit the river and prepare the on-the-spot reports for the media. When we approached the river, all team members, something like 40-50 people, and with all the resource persons and experts, we were really amazed to see that the state of pollution in the river was really devastating. The cattle were died by drinking the polluted water. Even vegetation of nearby area was not able to sustain. The ingress of this polluted water in something like 60 nearby villages made the water unpotable. So we decided to go to one village. And when we visited the village, we saw that if you get the water from hand pump, you are going to get the colored water with the pollution. So we asked the people that what are you doing? And they said, sir, somebody came like you, and they say a team came over here and they suggested you boil the water. Now, if you look at, most of you are from science background, and the simple chemistry you must be knowing that if the water has the biological contamination, and if you boil the water to a certain level, this biological contamination, it will be removed. But when it comes to chemical pollution, then if you boil that kind of water, then what will happen? Even these chemicals, they are likely to make most complex compounds, making it more harmful and more poisonous. So this is how when it comes to scientific communication and scientific solutions, we have to be extra careful. What happened eventually? We collected the samples, we sent the samples to the laboratories, the analysis was done, experiments were done, and then the reports were published, and eventually the authorities were pressurized, and the authorities eventually asked the industry people to put the water treatment plants, and after these chemical effluents would be discharged in the river only after treatment. This is how, with the intervention of local level science and technology program, a problem of something like 60 villages was solved. So such kind of problems, if you look at in your neighborhood, you will find many problems. So it is not, as I said earlier, it is not only gathering the data, gathering information, it is also putting that information, putting that knowledge for the betterment of the people. So this kind of attitude and attributes are required for really solving the problems. So if ever, especially youngsters who are bubbling with a lot of ideas, a lot of energy, a lot of zeal, and I think they should come forward to take up this kind of job, where really the combination of STEM and combination of all these attitudes, like scientific attitudes, scientific knowledge, method of science, technological temper, mathematical temper, innovativeness, all these things, if you synchronize in a proper way, I think one can achieve the excellence. One can really do something tangible for our society. So I think the time is up, and I am sure that some of these ideas would be useful for you. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And I really look forward for your interaction and whatever we can discuss and churn out something better for the society. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pateria. That was an excellent motivational talk, taking all our participants along the path of scientific curiosity and analytic bent of mind, and bringing out how technological precision is the need of the hour. And thank you so much also for reminding us that today is Engineers Day, and I wish a very happy Engineers Day to all those who have ventured out in this path. Thank you also for giving our participants the importance of the need for an innovative bent of mind to solve local problems. And with that, I would like to also mention here about Jaya Sagar, one of our panelists who was supposed to be here today. She came to IRIS when she actually brought a local problem to the fore. She comes from Himachal Pradesh, and so what she observed over there was that the apple cultivation wasn't as much as it should be. I mean, they were not getting enough produce. And so she also noticed that bees in that area were more frequent over the mustard fields. So she kind of, because of her observation skills, she managed to convince the elders in her town, in her village, to actually sow mustard around the apple trees. And as a result, that increased the apple produce. And that was the project that she had brought to IRIS, and that is what took her on to the international level as well. And so we now have Jaya speaking to us via video message, just telling us exactly what she has achieved and how this program has taken her this far. And this is also an opportunity for us to be able to call out the massive support and the drive that NCSTC brings to programs such as this, because it is because of programs such as this that the connection is made between the youth of our country and goals and targets that can be achieved. So without wasting any more time, I would like to request that Jaya's video be shown now, and then we move on.
Hello, Jaya. Your audio is not coming.
There doesn't seem to be an audio. Can we try again? Meanwhile, while we're getting Jaya's audio loaded, Daksh, would you like to tell us about what... Oh, 1 second, we have the video here. Okay.
I belong to village Jagatsuk near a small town Manali of district Kullu in Himachal Pradesh. I did my matriculation from Manali Public School. During my school days, I was so enthusiastic about various science projects and science quizzes and everything related to science. So I took non-medical sciences, and during my 11th and 12th, I participated in IRIS National Fair and then got selected for International Science and Engineering Fair held at Los Angeles that year. And that year during ISEF, when I was the only girl from Himachal Pradesh in Team India, and I got to meet so many scientists there. Like, scientists are real people. That's what I got to know when I was in 12th. And I met them and I got pictures with them. And I still adore my picture with the Nobel laureate, Dr. Francis Arnold. And I was so excited and so happy that I got the dream and the vision to my life that I want to become a scientist when I grow up. And today I'm making the biggest step towards my dream, which is I'm going for my PhD, that too in quantum engineering. Quantum engineering is going to be a big revolution to the world. And I think that, it is the right time to get myself invested in the field and do something great, not just for my nation, not just for my continent, but for the world. So IRIS and ISEF has played a major role in forging my career and changing the life of a small village girl to what I am today. I've completed my BTech from National Institute of Technology, Hamirpur, and during my BTech, I worked on various projects of national importance. And I completed my summer internship last year from Austria, where I worked in quantum computing. I got to use supercomputers, and my passion for quantum engineering increased, for which I'm doing my PhD in, and now I'm flying off to London. And I also got a scholarship for my PhD. There's a Chase Smith scholarship, which is almost around 2.5 crores. And it is a big thing for me and my people, because when I was coming and the news came out that I got the scholarship and now I'm going for a PhD, the happiness in the eyes of my people was, I don't know, I cannot define it in words, but I saw the sense of pride they had and the love they showed to me, and I'm really excited. And I hope that more and more students could get a chance to get such an exposure to explore themselves if they want to contribute to the world through their science, because we all are a lot of geniuses, and if we get a good direction, all of us can do great. So if I could do it, I feel all of us can. So thank you so much, Iris. Thank you so much, Isif. All of this I am today is because of the exposure, the world class exposure and the skills that you gave me. I so much wanted to attend this session live today, but as I am flying off to achieve my dreams today, and I hope this video will do justice to my gratitude and my heartfelt feelings towards Iris and the world class exposure and a break it gave me to change my life. So, thank you so much, and I hope we all will see much more efforts and much more platforms for students from all over the India to and all over the world to get such great exposures and change their lives through science. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jaya. I think cannot understand that the video is not of great quality because she has shot impromptu on her mobile phone from the airport, and you can actually see her sitting there and sending this off.
Yeah,
She had
very
actually
good.
thought that she
Very good.
would be
Very
able to
nice.
be with us. Yes. Thank you, sir. And participants, that is Jaya Sagar for you, somebody who is so bubbly. If I wish she had had this, opportunity of being with us, because Jaya in herself is somebody that the entire group of Iris actually remembers very, very fondly. All participants, all SRC members, all her co participants. And I think, Daksh, I will lead on to you from there, because even you were, I think, one of the co-participants in the same team that Jaya was in. And Daksh, of course, is again somebody who, along with his partner, observed something which was grown locally, but which could be of so much use. And I will not dwell on that. I will ask Daksh to talk about his project and to recount his journey at IRIS, ISEF, and beyond. Daksh, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, ma'am. So I'll start with how it all started. So before I dive into the actual story of how I started participating in IRIS and how it all went, I just want to say that whatever you do it with passion. Show your passion that so that others can actually see how much you love doing work. So so I started my Irish journey in 2011. So that was like 9 years ago. So in 2011, I participated with one of my partners, and the only thing that I was looking forward to is actually uh, getting to showcase my project on an international level, on an international platform. But unfortunately, that didn't happen, and that did not get me down. That actually inspired me to do more. So in 2012, I participated again, but I wasn't selected. My project wasn't up to the mark. So, but that did not actually get me down again. So in 2013, I participated again with a project which solved the problem of Giardia intestinalis, which is a very common parasite gastrointestinal disease. And I solved it, we solved it using Rubus ellipticus, a plant grown in Himalayas. So with that, working day and night, we actually made it to like the first position in RS 2013. And from there, we were selected to showcase our project uh, at ISEF 2014. But between RS 2013 and ISEF 2014, we were mentored by one of the greatest scientists of the country. And there were like a series of 3 coaching camps in which we were actually coached on how we should actually present our findings and actually how can we improve our research. So kudos to all the mentorship and support by IRIS team and DSG, all the scientists that actually supported us, grilled us day and night. But I mean, that was all part of the journey. And then in 2014, we all went to Los Angeles and we participated at ISEF. And over there, for our project, we won the first grant award. the Best of Category award. And then we were invited to China to visit their research bases. So that was pretty fun. But along the journey, so IRIS as an experience in my life, it has actually changed me a lot. So in terms of what is possible, so a lot of things are possible if you believe in yourself, if you believe in your ideas, if you believe that yes, you can do it, and then you have the capability of proving it. The only thing that you will ever need is a platform to showcase um, what you're actually passionate about. So my advice to everyone else would be just keep on doing the work and also enjoy the journey while you're at it. Because like if you burn out yourself, you actually lose yourself. Don't lose yourself in the journey. Enjoy the journey, and also work so hard that people can actually see all your hard work. So that's all from my side. Ritik, do you want to take over?
Thank you, Daksh. Um, thank you. I think you've made your point there. Work hard, and hard work does pay. Yes, I so totally agree with what you're saying, because I've seen the way in which you and your partner both worked on your project and made an impact at a level wherein there are over 1800 projects, and to get a best of subject category, that was phenomenal. Over to you, Rutik. And Ritik, in this particular group of IRIS ISEF participants is, if I may put it that way, the youngest, because Ritik went to ISEF in 2019, and yeah, I will let you take it from there, Ritik. Yeah.
Sure. Uh, so I'll start with my journey. Like I I was diagnosed with a condition called sickle cell anemia. So basically, your red blood cells they go uh, crescent shape, or you can say sickle shape. And when they pass through your veins or your blood vessels, they get stuck, and due to which your blood flow stops, or your blood is been coagulated, and then further condition comes in. So all the symptoms are there and all. So I used to face this constant, like frequent hospitalizations during my childhood, and certainly at a point, I had a big drawback in my life. I lost my father due to the same disease. So, which made me a constant thinker that I want to do something in this field. So at the age of 11, I started reading about all the hematology diseases, what is sickle cell anemia, constantly pestering like doctors with questions, like how to do things and get the things done. I used to read a lot of articles, and at a point, when I was 16, I came to Mumbai. I was staying in a residential school, so I didn't have much of exposure of internet and all. And when I was exposed to the big world of internet, I started exploring many things of science. I mean, I that time I got to know that scientist is a field. I mean, I thought research has been passionately or like willingly done. I didn't thought that there is a professional field for that. So I was that much of unaware about this thing. So I started reading about papers about the sickle cell anemia. I started writing about things like what are the cures that have been possible, what are people working on it. I came up with 10 to 12 ideas as a young child. There's all vague knowledge of science wandering around in your mind. So I went to my doctor. I shortlisted some of them. I came up with one idea, finalized it. Then the important part comes in, that is execution of your idea. You build a hypothesis, and if I know there are many people whose family does not belong to a scientific background. So coming from that perspective is kind of challenging for you. So you have, I would say to everyone, like, you don't have to lose any hope during this period. You just have to constantly keep on cold messaging them on LinkedIn, a good platform for this thing, to get your research done. Constantly mailing all of the scientists about your idea, showing your passion, and you really enjoy what you do. That is a core thing. And I fortunately got an opportunity in a lab to work about my idea on sickle cell anemia. I did in vitro studies about the drug, and I got to know about IRIS. So I applied to IRIS as, I mean, it was in a way. So basically, I didn't prepare for IRIS. Uh, I started doing my research, and there were IRIS and many science fair. So I applied to IRIS. I had no expectations that I would get selected, and I got selected. I got selected for ICEF, for Team India, and that sort of changed me. That was big turning point, I would say. I got great exposure of scientific field, and as Doug said, you have finest scientists of our country, and obviously about like of world, you can say. You get trained to all the capacities that you can. I mean, you get great exposure, scientific knowledge. They turn you, they uh, train you in that way that you are capable of fighting in front of like proper scientists. Uh, and this changed me, and we had a chance to represent our country in US. And yeah, this constantly gave me a big part. Now in lockdown time, in when this pandemic hit, I was just sitting around in home like all of you. I thought, why don't I utilize this time to do something? I started reading about coronavirus from Feb, and in end of the Feb, I came up with ideas about drug combinations to treat coronavirus. uh, I finalized some of the ideas, and I approached my company, and I told them that this thing is a big hit and it would work. So we did computational analysis, like biocomputation, to see that whether these drugs work or not. And finally, we got our good results. Now we are beginning the in vitro studies for it. And now, yeah, I recently got featured in Forbes. That was a kind of milestone for me. And now I'm keeping on working on it. And the huge part is execution. You just have to execute your idea with great will. And there's a simple saying that I would like to say is, uh, you whatever you do, uh, whether it be like yeah, whatever you do, you can only give your best work if you enjoy it, and not just to do in sake of your this thing, that this can be a big thing. You have to constantly show your passion towards the subject and your willingness that you want to make impact in the world. Yeah, that's all. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Yeah.
Congratulations, Rutik. We are so proud of you for getting featured in Forbes India. And
Thank
we wish
you.
you all the very best for the future as well. We will now open up the session for questions. Request to the participants, if you would like to question any of our speakers, you may either type your questions in the chat section, or you could unmute your mic and ask the questions directly. So we are ready to take questions for Dr. Pateria, Rutik, Daksh. If there are any questions. Rutik and Daksh, do you have any questions for Dr. Pateria? And Dr. Pateria, sir, do you have any questions for Rutik and Daksh? Before
Yes,
we open it.
I really appreciate the way all these three have given their ideas, and whatever they said, I think that is brilliant. And I'm very happy to see that they are really already motivated, and they have done a lot, and they have a lot of vigor and ideas to move it forward with right kind of spirit and ideas that I have been discussing. Only thing I would like to ask, especially, I don't know whether Jaya is around or not. Jaya is around?
No, sir. She's
Okay,
not.
okay. Jaya is traveling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now maybe it is for Daksh that what you would like to pursue in future and what is your ambition?
Right now, so I just graduated from university. Right now, working for Amazon corporate as a technical account manager. So for now, I'm just sticking with all the tech stuff because I'm currently working in cloud industry, and as you know, due to COVID, everyone's moving to cloud. So for now, I'm just sticking to tech, but who knows? Along the way, I might find any other interest and pursue them if I'm passionate about it, of course.
Okay, very good. So good luck. Daksh.
Thank you, sir.
Now, Ritik, what about you? I think
Yeah.
you are focusing on a number of issues. So, what is your core area you want to pursue?
So I'm going to do my BSc in molecular biology, and then further I want to pursue it in immunohematology, PhD in immunohematology. And on the sidelines, I'm working on biopharma company startup. So to execute cancer, sickle cell anemia, and COVID-19 drugs. So yeah, the constant
Okay.
thing is going.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Go ahead. All the best.
Thank you.
Any questions from our participants?
There's a question coming in on the chat, ma'am. It's from someone named Shireen, who asks, how to come up with ideas to research? What inspires research?
Dr. Pateria, would you like to address that?
Okay, yes, I think that is very important and interesting. And as far as the research in India is concerned, especially in scientific subjects, most of the time we have been looking towards the developed countries, what is going over there, and picking up some of the ideas, picking up some of the threads, and some of the newer areas for pursuing our research. As a contrast, I think, as I said in the beginning, we need to evolve our own organic approach. As India is progressing very fast in the arena of science and technology, at the same time, we are confronting with a number of our own problems. And these problems, as I said, have the scientific solutions with the scientific interventions. So how about if we are able to identify the areas which are relevant to India, which are relevant to our people, I think that would be great. That is number one. Number two, most of the time, as we discussed the quality of research. So that is another point that comes to my mind, although all of them are not of that kind. But of course, there is always a scope for further betterment. So generally, what happens when someone decides to do research, he or she comes into contact with a guide or with a professor or whosoever is really to become the supervisor. So mostly from coining the title and developing the research design to its completion, mainly, although there are some kind of mechanisms to review, to ponder over, to have the corrective measures, but most of the time it remains an affair between the guide and the scholar. There is no third party intervention. There is no third party any analysis. So in my opinion, whenever we are deciding any topic, whenever we are developing our research design or the methodology or whatever, how we are proceeding, so before that, I think it is a good idea to bring in, I think, the system or the university or the institution or the scholar and guides themselves to bring in a kind of critical approach, a kind of analytical approach, that how this topic is going to be relevant, how the outcome is going to help the people at large. So I think if that is the focus, there are n number of ideas, n number of problems surrounded everywhere. So I think it could be an idea while finding the title of your research, you have to look at your surroundings. You have to discuss the people at the grassroots level, and you will find number of avenues. Like Jaya has picked up the idea for her project, and all of you have picked up the idea. Similarly, if you pick up the idea that is really a burning topic and that is really some alarming subject, or some problem that is being faced by the people at large, if you come out with a kind of solution through your research, I think that would be a great contribution, because by doing research, you are going to get a capital D, a small r, and a dot. That is called doctor. So I think that is also a kind of accomplishment, a kind of satisfaction, kind of decoration. But what comes more, if you are really giving some solution, giving some better understanding, and creating some new knowledge, especially relevant to India-centric, with the organic approach that is relevant to our soil, relevant to our people, relevant to our really ethos and value systems. So I think this could be one kind of aspect that may also be considered while we are designing the research topic. Mostly it happens that your guide is in connection with his or her peers sitting somewhere outside, and he pick up some kind of thread, and that thread you develop it further. Of course, that is also a kind of contribution. But more important is, because if you are working here, then the research should be maybe India-centric. I'm not saying that we ignore all these aspects of the developed countries, but more focus should be on our situations and our areas. So I think that maybe, in my opinion, could be more productive.
Thank you, sir. I have a question on the chat from someone called Anshul Raj. He says, I have a lot of problem in finding my passion over the years. I have tried a lot of things really, but I'm unable to settle on a single one or multiple, I guess, passion is what he's saying. Please help. Thank you. So I would like to address this question to Daksh. Daksh, would you like to give him some sort of an advice on this?
For sure. So now, if I understand your question correctly, you're still struggling with a lot of directions. Like you have a lot of passions. You wanna like literally go everywhere, right? So in my opinion, never fall in love with only one topic. Ideas are all floating around you. Just be very, very observative of your environment, and also just try out each and every idea. Because like you can spend like 1 or 2 days just exploring a topic like extensively, right? And then after some time you realize after some research, some experimentation, you just don't quite you're not quite convinced that this is gonna go further. Okay, leave that topic, go to the next one, try it out. Because like if you don't actually like take the first direction in that direction, you don't take that first step, like you will just be jumbled with thinking about maybe this could work, maybe this could work. Go out and actually take that first step, and I'm pretty sure you guys will find your passion like I did. So that's my few cents.
Thank you, Daksh. Any more questions in the chat, or would people like to unmute their microphone and ask questions? We are open to that as well.
There's a question coming in on the chat from Navaraj Perumal Swami, who writes, Regarding the research topic, new researchers will plunge into the topics that provide solutions to our national problems. A lot of things have to be done by the youth of this country. Even after 73 years of independence, we are not able to provide basic amenities to our inhabitants. Hence, the research output should provide a low-cost technology to solve the problem. He's asking for opinions on this.
Dr. Pateria, would you like to address that?
Yes, good. I think that is very good. As I've been saying, so I think it's a right kind of approach, and it can be further amplified and further spread, so that many people are joining that kind of research, that problem-solving approach. And many times there are small problems. I would like to give yet another example. As I said, that India is a country of contrasts. And many times we find it difficult to deal with certain problems. I will give you an example from Rajasthan. What happened in Rajasthan, you know, there is a problem, scarcity of water in many places, and the women especially, they have to visit to nearby water bodies, maybe some lake, maybe some pond, for to fetch some water for daily use, ranging from 1-2 kilometers to 3-5 kilometers. So say for example 3 kilometers is the daily practice. The women will go with a pitcher or with a vessel, and will fetch some water, bring it to home, and even many times they have to go again and again to get more water. So some people, some aware people and some forward-looking people, they came together in the village and they decided to, how about put a kind of diesel engine in the water body, and just have a kind of pipe from water body to the village, and let us get the tap water. So they really, it motivated the Gram Panchayat also, and they were able to collect some money, and they put this into action. Now the scenario has been changed. Now if you just open the tap, and you will get the water at your doorstep. So people were happy. The scenario has been changed. At one fine morning, when people turn on their tap, what happened? There was no water. So then people just looked at that, what is the problem? And they observed that on the way from water body to the village, the pipe was broken. So no problem. Somehow they put it in order, and they rectified, and again the water started flowing. Another fine day, again the water stopped coming. Then they again observed that this water pipe was broken at the middle. Then they thought that somebody is not happy. Somebody was not happy with this water supply system. Then they discovered on one midnight that one auntie, very old, she was just breaking the pipe by a stone at the midnight. Then people caught her respectfully and presented her before the panchayat next day. And very respectfully they asked that, Mataji, क्या हो गया? आप खुश नहीं हैं? ये पानी आता है आसानी से. Then what Mataji said, you listen carefully. She said, क्या आप लोग हम लेडीज का घर से बाहर निकलना भी बंद कर देना चाहते हैं? You got my point. Even amazing. What she said, you people are just stopping us ladies to go out of our homes. In the process, when we go to fetch the water, we share our views, mingle with each other, and we enjoy going there, getting the water. You are stopping all that pleasure. So this is how there comes a conflict between the custom approach and the modern approach. So whenever we are bringing in such kind of solutions, all the time we have to very carefully, we have to look at the custom approach also, so that the customary things, and there has to be some balance between both of them. This is yet another kind of dimension that I wanted to bring in. So whenever we are bringing such kind of solutions at the local level, we have to look at from the custom approach as well to satisfy the people around and to make it really logical and useful.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
There's another question coming in on the chat from Prem Chandelier, who asks, how can I identify a productive research on my idea?
Rutik, would you like to address that?
Yeah, can you repeat the question? Yeah, people are sending it on private chat. You can just send it on the public one. We can answer. Yep. Huh, ma'am, can you repeat the question? I didn't.
The question is, Rutik, how can one identify productive research for one's idea?
Yeah, I mean, whatever you think, you just need to know that is it like can it be implemented in the real world, and the second aspect would be, can it make an impact? So the first thing is implementation and how it can help people. That would be the first aspect of that research or idea, I would say. And then certainly you can work on it. So basically you just need to analyze every idea that comes to your mind, that someone is working on it, or it is helping people, and can I execute this? So yeah, you will find your answer.
Thank you, Rutik. Are there any more questions? Right. I think we have taken a number of questions, and I think we have had very, very good inputs from our panelists. Is there, we'll just give you another 2 minutes for questions, and then we would like to close, but we would like to give you 2 minutes if in case there are any more questions. Srinab, I think the question that you are asking is about local problems, but and I think so. Srinab is one of our recent ICEF and IRIS participants. His problem solves an agricultural. His project solved a local agricultural problem, but it has not been nationally implemented yet. But I think Srinab, the whole point here is that everything is under lockdown right now. And so I think it will take a bit of time for any new projects that have come out to actually find implementation. And so this is the question that Srinab is asking, sir. Would you like to address this? Because he says he had a problem, he had a project which addressed a local problem, but it has not yet been implemented. In my opinion, it's probably due to the lockdown situation and COVID and things like that. But if you would like to add to it, sir, we would appreciate that. Sir, your mic is off, sir. Dr. Pateria, your mic is off, sir.
Okay, now is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I think that is very interesting to know that you have brought out some solutions at agriculture and rural technology. And as Ms. Sharon has already mentioned that because of certain reasons in the wake of COVID-19, I think it was not implemented. But most of the time, if you look at from the scenario around, whatever research takes place today it takes a bit longer to be implemented. I think India needs to speed up, I think, that kind of activity. Most of the time it happens that it takes a little longer. But as a contrast, we have seen in the organizations like MIT in USA, they have their own systems. Whenever some new innovation takes place, they have their technology transfer, they have licensing, and they have a network of industries, and there is regular interaction with them. So that kind of system, I think, should be in place in India also. Although some organizations have their own system, like CSIR has a unit called IPU. Similarly, there is a National Research and Development Corporation of India for connecting the scientists and innovators to the industry. So these are the agencies for implementation. But as a matter of fact, it takes longer. I would like to give you an example that sometime back when I was in CSIR NISCARE, we worked out a mega project called Vaccine, vulnerability assessment of climate change in climate sensitive areas. Like we have identified Sundarbans area in eastern India, and Lakshadweep Islands in the west, Himalayan region in the north. So because they are more vulnerable to climate change, and the climate change can be easily visible there. Because if you go to Lakshadweep, the water level of the sea is, you can touch directly. So there you can really see the changes which are coming out of climate change. There we organized a kind of demonstration of the technology developed by CSIR laboratories, especially relevant for combating with the climate change problems. So there was a technology called saline water desalination plant, solar operated. And the local administration was very much interested to install these plants all around the islands. Although NIOT, National Institute of Ocean Technology, they have put together a kind of plant that produces 1 liter water every second. But that is not sufficient. They require more water desalination plants. So this small desalination plant that can work in a household, and of the cost of a kind of water purifier that we are using at our homes. So local administration was interested. As a matter of fact, the technology was developed sometime back 20 years before. And there is no manufacturer who produces. Only for the demonstration the technology was available. So these kinds of gap areas, I think there is a lot of opportunity for youngsters like you people. You can come up with new startups. The technology is being developed in the laboratories of science and technology, CSIR, biotechnology, all these departments, ICMR, there is a huge network of research laboratories in the country. And they are coming up with many researches and technologies. Of course, you can have different kinds of setup, different kinds of startups, for so that this technology can really see the light of the day. So I think these are the aspects we should be moving forward with some solutions for really realizing the technology or the solutions which are coming forward from different cross sections. They should really see the light of the day.
Thank you, sir. We have a comment in the chat section from Zen, who says there are many such ideas we discover at home in situations like pandemic by not going out to hospitals for treatments of some medical problems to avoid contact of corona, how to work on it, or take the ideas to implementing and experimenting these times when no resource of research in lab. Thank you. So I would like to address this and say that there are the pandemic situation is something that has forced all of us to take a backseat in many areas, especially when it comes to going to research labs, etc. But that doesn't stop us from actually exploring research online, or actually looking for places that can help us out uh, by their sharing of research which they have conducted in the past as well. So if there is anything that you have in mind as far as a project is concerned, I think there are enough resources available online which you can actually tap into, and which you can actually ask the respective owners to share with you and to discuss with you. However, I'm sure when the pandemic situation lifts, and we're all very hopeful that it will lift someday. I mean, so maybe that's when you could think of going to a lab facility. And any which ways, if I were to speak in the IRIS context, lab research, especially for students, is not permitted unless it is under adult supervision. In fact, in some of the labs, you're not even permitted to touch any of the equipment or the substances. The experimentation has to be carried out by the person who is in charge of the lab. Therefore, I don't think we can actually, well, if I may use the word, blame the situation which we are in right now, but we can definitely think of looking at other ways and means in which we can carry out research. And yes, there is a question from Bhavya Garg. Can you share some resources for online research? Definitely, we will look at putting up whatever resources we can get our hands onto the IRIS website for you to actually go and to explore.
I would like to add one or two things. One, the resource that you drop in to any CSIR lab nearby, and the libraries, they have a kind of open network called NKRC, National Knowledge Resource Consortium, that offers free of cost access of the research journals and all these data and information from all around the world, including major research papers published from the world scientists. So they are accessible. If you go individually, it is very expensive. If you drop in the library of any CSIR lab, for example, if you are in Delhi, there are National Physical Laboratory, Institute of Genomics, Central Road Research Institute. So relevant if you are near Hyderabad, so you will find NGRI, National Geological Research Institute, and CCMB, Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, IICT, Indian Institute of Chemical Technology. If you are in Chennai, Leather Research Institute, and so many. Wherever you are, you will find a nearby research laboratory you can drop in. So that is that's the resource available freely for you for conducting research and accessing the information. Number two, when it comes to ideas to its implementation, I think it's a long process. As I said in the beginning, the whole focus on my discussion today morning was on the precision and the refinement of the concept converting into the precision technology. So that is the point that mostly we are lacking. So that has to be really evolved and developed. It is not only preparation, only giving the idea, it is implementing the idea into work. So developing a prototype, then testing the prototype, refinement of the prototype, then converting it into a manufacturable gadget or apparatus or whatever. Then further testing in some households or with some target groups to whom it is intended. So I think these are the ways, and there is a whole process involved from ideation to the manufacturing and its further use. So it's a whole cycle of the product. It is called product cycle. From ideation to product, then further advancement of the product. As you have seen in the, you must have seen that the telephone, that the landline that we have been using 20 years back or 30 years back is not the same. And whatever you were using before, that is not the same. Incremental changes are coming in. So this is a continuous process. has to be taken care very carefully. And India really needs to develop that kind of mechanism, that kind of attribute to really master over this kind of these kinds of issues. Only then we can sustain and we can evolve a kind of process from idea, from concept to its prototype, and then further refinement of the product, and finally getting it into the market, and incremental innovation adding to it regularly. As you must have seen, many companies, they have shut down because they could not sustain with the time. And nowadays, this is, as I said in the beginning, the time of plurality of technology, the time of interdisciplinarity of technology and the concepts. So if they come together, so for that purpose, even individual research is now not now sufficient. That's why research is being conducted collectively. Even multinational research, like you look at the CERN and look at various human genome project where more than 20 countries, they came together. So this is a kind of scenario where we are. Although there is always a scope for individual research and individual innovation, but most of the time it requires a collective kind of framework for further refinement and its logical conclusion, and really reaching out to the real users and supplementing further with new advancements. So it's a whole process. I think we need to get in tune with that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing about the research available. I'm sure participants will find that really useful, because yes, we do get that people are right now struggling for researchers. And also thank you for sharing that there are groups in which people can work on their research and move ahead. We would like to, okay, so somebody has put a big message in the chat. I just read that out. Yeah, so is actually thanking
you.
Yeah, thanking everybody. Yes, thank you. We would like to tell everybody that we will be opening for submissions on the IRIS website, and there is a short video for students who are planning to participate in IRIS. And Daksh, you might be a little surprised when you see this video, if you haven't already. So we'll just take 2 minutes to play the video, and then we'll move ahead.
Are you ready for the ride of your life? Well, it all begins right here. Your first step is picking a category you can enter by yourself or with a partner. If you are in 5th to 8th standard, you will be in junior category. If you are in 9th to 12th, you are in senior category and have a chance of making it all the way to ICEF. Now that you know which category you are in, it is time to find out which subject your project comes under.
At IRIS, you have a variety of 21 subject categories to choose from, ensuring that your project has a category that fits. The categories include animal sciences, behavioral and social sciences, biochemistry, biomedical and health sciences, biomedical engineering, cellular and molecular biology, chemistry, computational biology and bioinformatics, earth and environmental sciences, embedded systems, energy, sustainable materials and design, engineering mechanics, environmental engineering, material sciences, mathematics, microbiology, physics and astronomy, plant sciences, robotics and intelligent machines, system software, and transitional medical sciences.
A display shows the public and the judges what you've done. You're looking to attract and inform visitors about your project. To make it easy for people to access your results by creating a clear, attractive and concise display. The focus should be the work. Take a look at this reference. Your title should be simple and must accurately represent your research. Take photographs or videos of important parts or phases of your experiment to use in your display. Prepare a miniature of your model in case your prototype is too large to be carried along. Make sure your display is logically presented and easy to read. Use neat, colorful headings, charts, and graphs to present your project. Pay special attention to labeling. Be sure to adhere to the size limitations and safety rules when preparing your display.
The IRIS journey begins with registration on the website www.irisnationalfair.org with submission of online synopsis and supporting documents. These entries are prejudged by the IRIS Scientific Review Committee, and shortlisted projects are sent an email inviting them to participate in the IRIS National Science Fair. Winners of the IRIS National Science Fair qualify for an intensive series of mentoring camps and get the opportunity to represent India at platforms such as the Regeneron International Science and Engineering Fair in the United States of America. ICEF is the world's largest pre-college STEM competition. Over 265 Indian students have won over 160 awards at this competition, competing with over 6 million high school students from all over the world each year. Not only are you getting a chance to make your nation proud, but if you're lucky, you could join the 31 Indian students who have had minor planets named after them.
So guys, please don't miss this opportunity.
It's your turn now.
If you're innovative and you really want to bring about a change in the world, I think IRIS is the right place for you.
You enjoy science and math and computer science and so on. So I mean, it gives you a platform to show what you've done, and you have a chance to go to ICF too.
If science actually kindles your curiosity and you're really passionate about it, IRIS provides you the largest platform in India to show your talent.
Applying to IRIS, not only get to have a great experience, you meet great people and great mentors at that. They're not judges, they're not judging you, they're mentoring you, they're teaching you. They make you learn new things.
In the end, it's not about winning or losing, it's about experience, and IRIS National Fair guarantees great experience. Don't tell people what your dreams are, show what your dreams are through IRIS.
It's once in a lifetime experience.
It's your turn.
It's your turn. It's your turn.
It's your turn.
It's your turn.
It's your turn.
It's your turn.
Right. So that was for Daksh. What did you feel, Daksh, seeing yourself as you were in 2014?
Wonderful, wonderful presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Quite surprising, actually, but
Daksh, 9 years before?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Great.
9 years before. Yeah.
9 years ago.
It was it's still, it actually it feels like yesterday, to be honest. I mean, the feeling when you actually walk towards the stage, like when your name is announced, like it was all coming back to me. I was like, yeah.
You are on right direction, right path.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. And before we leave for today, we would request everybody to switch their cameras on so that we could take a picture of today's webinar to post on our website. Please switch your cameras on. Bhavya, you have a question. Can we submit multiple projects? Yes, you may submit multiple projects. And again, projects are first judged by the SRC. So yes, you may submit multiple projects. Request everyone to please switch your cameras on. Shivam, we hope to open the registrations today for IRIS. So, yeah.
Good. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Can we have the cameras on? Daksh,
Everybody switch on the camera if you
please
want
switch
to be
on your
website.
camera. Thank you, Dr. Pandey. We can see you now. Thank you for joining us today. And I also see Dr. Amin. Lipika, Daksh, your sister is also on here. That's so nice.
Yeah, I saw. Hi.
We are enabling everyone's camera, so please join for the photograph.
So a lot of people don't really want to put their cameras on. Everybody smile, whoever's got their camera.
Because they are at home and many things are going around. So of course, whosoever are available, you can take. I think 2 lines, three lines are full.
Yes, sir. That's well. Ma'am, you're on mute.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being on today's webinar. Dr. Pateria, we really appreciate the time that you've given us, and we are so thankful for the messages that you have left with us today. Thank you, Daksh. Thank you, Rutik. May both of you continue to be an inspiration for many more IRIS and ISEF participants. Thank you to all the supporters and for everyone who has taken time to join us this morning for this webinar. Thank you once again.
Thank you all. I also enjoyed talking to all of you. It was really great and very exciting. And all the best for especially for the youngsters, the young scientists.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, Daksh. Bye, Rutik. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.